Hey guys, after something of a brief hiatus, I am back with some more Steven Universe reviews. These are more backlog reviews that I have not done of episodes earlier in the series than are typically current for the series, as I have been doing now for several weeks. I don't know why I'm introducing it this thoroughly. I guess it's because not only was I not able to get any reviews up last week, I am reviewing in a different part of my studio room than I normally review in, trying a different setup so that I can utilize the space a little bit better. And saying that I couldn't get any episodes up, that's not entirely accurate. I probably could have. But we're getting very dangerously close now to talking about an episode that I just do not want to talk about, so I've been kind of pushing reviews back, procrastinating a little bit. It's kind of what I do. This episode is not that episode. It's actually the episode after this one, but you understand the point. Now, this episode I actually quite like. This is Island Adventure. It is a Lars and Sadie episode that I actually think is a good episode. There are still some problems with it in terms of the psychology and the relationship between these characters, but for the most part, this episode is actually very good. It starts out, Steven and the Gems are on this really picturesque, really idyllic island that has all these giant geodes growing up out of the ground or embedded in the ground, or in whatever way they're stuck partway into the ground, that seem to give off their own light. They're all over the place. And you can kind of hear the Gems talking in the background about what it is that they're there to find. It's some kind of gem creature, some kind of corrupted gem that I'm assuming Garnet foresaw with her future vision. And for whatever reason, they just can't find it anywhere on the island. It doesn't seem to be here any longer. So they decide to head back to the temple so that the Gems, without Steven, can head back out and actually search for it under the ocean, since they don't need oxygen to breathe, but Steven does. And Steven suggests that he tried warping them back, and he's able to activate the warp with just his mind, just like the other Gems do, and warp them back to the temple. It's a pretty neat moment because we realize that Steven has access to this power that he didn't previously have access to, but that's not the point of the episode. It's just kind of there, which I think is a pretty clever writing, and I just really appreciated that. So Steven is really eager now to go run and tell all of his friends that he's the warp master, that he can work the warps down. And of course he goes to the big donut first because it's like right around the corner from the temple as much as possible. And of course Lars and Sadie are there, and Lars is napping behind the counter and it's making life difficult for Sadie. She's unable to do her job. So they get into an argument, and for one, at least they're finally talking about the issues that they have with each other. They're actually confronting each other with their problems. This is a good sign, and it does suggest, more so than I realized in my first time viewing these episodes, that they do seem to have learned something from their behavior in Joking Victim. Particularly Sadie seems to understand that she should confront Lars with problems that she has regarding his behavior. That's really good. That's a really good sign for their relationship, because whether it's romantic or not, they do have a relationship. But they're not making any headway in their argument because Lars is unwilling to admit that he's wrong, or that he even might be wrong. So Steven suggests he take them away somewhere where they can be alone with Steven, of course. And so he takes them back to the warp and he warps them to that island, which is a horrible idea, but it's Steven. And Lars and Sadie don't know that there's a murderous gem monster somewhere on the island, potentially, so of course they're not going to say anything about it. But for Steven, and this is something that we get a really good sense for I think the first time in the series in this episode, Steven's life is just inherently naturally dangerous, so he doesn't think about putting other people in danger because he's used to himself being in perpetual danger. And Lars gets all annoyed. He wants to leave right away because he's like, oh, we live on a beach. The giant beautiful geodes, they don't interest me at all. I just want to go home. If I'm going to be bored, I might as well be bored at home at my job where I get paid, which to be fair is a pretty good mindset to have. But when they go back to the site where the warp pad was waiting, it doesn't seem to be there anymore. Anyway, what we get next is a really beautiful song from Steven, and just a bunch of scenes of the characters spending time together, learning to survive on this island, learning to fish, learning to cook, learning to start fires, creating a little camp for themselves, even taking some of the crystals that are lying around that are part of what is some kind of obvious gem ruin somewhere on the island. We get some pullback shots of it, and it's very clearly there. But taking these crystals and making jewelry for each other out of them. And throughout the course of this montage of these images, we get to see Lars in a situation where he is able to open up with another human being fully. And because of that, he becomes comfortable around Sadie, and they start to grow closer as a couple. And this is the first time that we really see, for sure, that the feelings between Lars and Sadie are mutual, that it's Lars and his various forms of antisocial behavior that prevent him from growing closer to Sadie in his regular life. Lars gets too hung up on his appearance, the way he appears to other people. He gets too hung up on trying to befriend people that he considers cool or better than himself. And Sadie gets left behind in that kind of situation. But in a situation where all of that is stripped away from his character, where he's unable to pursue those things any longer, his and Sadie's relationship is actually allowed to grow and become something that resembles a healthy relationship. And this would be great if not for the next part. First of all, I do have to address that the main issue I have with this episode from a narrative standpoint is that the gems never come looking for Steven. We're shown that there is a significant passage of time on this island during the time that these characters are stranded on this island, and the gems never come looking for Steven, and we never get an explanation for why. They're there probably for weeks. It seems like they're there for weeks. At the very least, they're there for several days. So were the gems just away from the temple searching for this corrupted gem that long? I don't know, whatever, but moving on. The corrupted gem turns out to actually still be on the island. It has the power to go invisible except for its gemstone, and I guess after the amount of time that they've been there, it has finally circled back around the island, and it has managed to stumble across them. And being a corrupted gem, it attacks them, of course, and since they can't really fight what they can't see, they start running. And eventually Sadie, seeing how much danger they're in, leads them back to the site where the warp pad was, moves aside this huge pile of leaves. There's the warp pad. It turns out she hid it so that Lars would have to stay on the island with her. This makes me so mad. This creature is a thing that can turn itself invisible. Why couldn't it have been that it hid the warp pad in some way? Why did it have to be that Sadie trapped them there? That makes her as bad as Lars. The fact that she felt so desperate to be in a relationship with this person who, for the most part, doesn't even seem compatible with her on a day-to-day basis, led her to kidnap him? That's ridiculous. It's up there with the kind of stupid stuff that Ronaldo does. And that's why when people ask me why I don't like Lars Sadie, I will tell them that it isn't because of Lars or because of Sadie, that they both have their problems, and that neither of them should probably be in this relationship with the other. This is where Sadie's problems come into it. Obviously, she is so desperate to be in this relationship that she will do anything, and that's just not healthy. And that's why I liked the episode Sadie's Song so much, because we finally got an episode about Sadie where it validated her as a person and didn't rely on her relationship with Lars. We need more episodes like that. We need some more solo Lars episodes. We need to develop both of their characters separately before bringing them together. Do I think they could have a healthy relationship? Yes. Do I think that they could have a healthy relationship as they exist now? No. But anyway, they're about to get on the warp pad, or they would be about to get on the warp pad if Lars weren't so understandably enraged with what Sadie has done that they become distracted and start fighting and don't get on the warp pad in time. Point being, Sadie gets frustrated. She gives Lars a little shove, not realizing that there's this precipice behind him behind some bushes. He falls down into this pit. It's been raining now for a few minutes, so this pit has become quite muddy. He's not able to climb back out. And surprise, surprise, the corrupted gem is down there with him. And the ending of this episode almost makes up for the deficiencies in this episode, that primarily being that Sadie kidnapped two people. Never gonna get over that. The corrupted gem attacks Lars. Sadie jumps to his defense immediately, tackling the thing out of the way, trying to fight it off. You can see it a little bit now because the rain is hitting it. You can now kind of see the outline of its body. And Steven even goes so far to toss her this stick spear that they had been using to catch fish earlier in the episode, and she fights it back with a busted arm. She fights it back and poofs it. She actually manages to kill a corrupted gem on her own. And based on the interactions between her and Lars after this and the way that they're looking at each other and their body language, you could tell she wouldn't have fought nearly that hard if she wasn't fighting for him. And Lars realizes that too, and he realizes in that moment exactly how much he means to her, and that maybe he should respect that a little bit more than he does. And so you have this moment where they are just very subtly kind of apologetic with each other, and they come to an understanding, and they're going to let this one go. Which they probably shouldn't, because Sadie kidnapped Lars, but hey, it's a healthy interaction between them. I'll take those wherever I can get them. So they bubble the corrupted gem, and they teleport back. End of the episode. There's not much more to say about this one than what I already have, guys. This is a good episode with some really pretty scenery. The island is gorgeous. I would love to go there in real life. It's just amazing. The character interactions before we learn what Sadie did, and which kind of taints those interactions, are really loving and sweet and charming, and I really enjoy them. I like Steven's song in this episode, but guys, this episode has some really major flaws, one of which being, where the heck are the gems? Why have they not realized that Steven hasn't come home and gone looking for him? And most obviously, the fact that Sadie kidnapped 2 people. I understand that she just wanted to spend more time with this person that she has feelings for, but that's not an excuse. Or at least it's not a very good excuse. And I get that this is a fantasy show where characters are allowed to go overboard, but it just really rubs me the wrong way. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I could actually rant about this a lot longer than I already have, and I don't want to go off on a tangent. Guys, what did you think of this episode? If you have seen it, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.